Are you actually proud of these pictures, Linda?" The words cut across the birthday hall like a knife. I froze, my fork halfway to my lips, as my daughter-in-law held up one of the framed photos from earlier in the evening. It was supposed to be a simple picture. Me standing by the cake, candles glowing, my grandchildren smiling behind me. But in her hands, it became ammunition. She tilted it toward the guests, smirking. "Look at her face. She looks like she's posing for a magazine. At 70. Isn't this hilarious?" Laughter. Not the warm family laughter I had prayed for. No. This was the sharp, mocking laughter that makes your skin crawl. I felt the heat rush up my neck. My fingers clutched at my napkin as if it could shield me from their eyes. A cousin leaned forward, snickering. "Pass it here." He looked at the photo and let out a chuckle. "You'd think she was turning 30, not 70. Look at that dress. My God, Linda, who picked it for you?" "I did," I whispered, but my voice was drowned in the giggles that rippled through the room. Then another photo appeared, this one from the photographer I'd hired. It showed me trying to dance with my grandchildren, laughing as I spun around. "She actually tried to dance," my daughter-in-law announced. "Everyone look. Doesn't she look ridiculous? Who does that at 70? The grandchildren, embarrassed, looked away. One of them even covered her mouth to hide a smile. My son, my own son, sat frozen, staring into his drink. Not a word, not a defense. His silence screamed louder than their laughter. I swallowed hard, trying to keep the tears from spilling, but the humiliation piled higher. A neighbor leaned in and whispered just loud enough for me to hear. "She should be grateful they even threw her a party. At her age, most people are forgotten." My ears rang. The walls of the hall seemed to close in. "Bring out the slideshow," someone shouted. The lights dimmed, and suddenly the projector lit up with photos. Not the ones I had chosen, the graceful portraits and family group shots. No, they had dug into the pile of rejects, the unflattering ones. A close-up of me biting into cake, my mouth open wide. The room erupted in laughter. A shot of me squinting awkwardly at the camera, caught off guard. More laughter. A photo of me trying to adjust my dress. Someone howled, "Comedy gold!" I pressed my hands together tightly, nails biting into skin. My heart pounded. "Even at 70, my daughter-in-law said sweetly into the microphone, "Linda still knows how to make us laugh. Isn't that right?" The applause that followed felt like knives. I stood there, frozen, face burning, eyes wet. My own birthday, my milestone, my moment, had turned into a stage for their cruelty. But deep down, under the humiliation, a spark lit inside me. I whispered under my breath, so softly no one else could hear. "You think you've ruined me tonight, but before this party is over, you'll remember who I am, and my reply will steal this night back." The laughter from the slideshow still echoed in my ears when the MC called for a toast. I stood slowly, clutching my glass of sparkling cider. My knees trembled, but my heart told me, "Say something. Don't let them drown you." I raised the glass. "Thank you all for being here. 70 years is a blessing, and Maybe keep it short, Linda," my daughter-in-law cut in, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "These speeches are usually for, well, the younger ones." Her words landed like a slap. The crowd chuckled nervously. Someone clinked a fork on a glass as if to lighten the moment. My son looked down at his plate. I lowered the glass, my face hot. My toast, my words, were taken from me. Later, during the gift exchange, the humiliation continued. I had spent weeks carefully wrapping thoughtful presents for everyone. Handmade scarves, knitted with care, each person's favorite color. When it was my turn to receive, a nephew handed me a small bag. Inside was a cheap pair of slippers. "Practical, right?" my daughter-in-law said loudly. "At her age, she doesn't need jewelry or perfume, just something comfortable. The room erupted with laughter. I forced a smile, whispering, "Thank you," while sliding the slippers back into the bag. But I saw the whispers, heard the mocking. She's 70 now. What else does she expect? She should be glad she's even here. Then came the pictures again. My granddaughter scrolled through the digital album on her phone, snickering with her cousins. "Look at Grandma's hair in this one. She looks like she tried too hard." Another cousin snorted. "And here, look at her trying to blow out the candles. Did you see the spit?" They laughed until tears streamed down their cheeks. I felt my stomach twist. My own grandchildren, the ones I babysat, the ones I fed, the ones I sacrificed for, laughing at me like I was the joke of the night. The final humiliation came during dessert. As the cake was cut, my daughter-in-law raised her glass. To Linda, may she keep entertaining us with, well, moments like these pictures, because laughter is the best gift she can give us at her age. The hall exploded in applause and laughter. I sat frozen. My cake tasted like ashes. My heart felt like glass cracking under the weight of their mockery. The same photos kept flashing in my mind, me caught off guard, me dancing, me smiling. Pictures meant to celebrate my life turned into weapons to tear me down. By the time the music started again, I couldn't move. My humiliation was complete. But inside me, the spark from earlier grew into a flame. I clenched my fists under the table and whispered to myself, "They think tonight belongs to them, but I will steal it back, and my revenge will burn into their memories like these pictures they mock." I slipped quietly out of the hall, the laughter still ringing in my ears. The hallway smelled faintly of roses from the floral arrangements, but even their sweetness couldn't cover the bitterness in my chest. Inside the restroom, I locked the door and leaned hard against the sink. My reflection stared back at me in the mirror. Mascara streaked down my cheeks, my lipstick smudged from biting my lip. I didn't look like the proud woman celebrating 70 years. I looked like a clown in the circus they had turned my birthday into. I gripped the sink tighter, the cool porcelain biting into my palms. "How dare they?" I whispered. My voice shook, but not from weakness, from rage. I heard their words again, echoing in my mind. "She looks ridiculous. Comedy gold. At her age, she should be grateful." The more I repeated them in my head, the more my humiliation hardened into something else. Something sharp. I pulled a tissue from my purse, wiping away the smeared makeup. 70 years, I said softly, staring into my own eyes. 70 years of sacrifice, of building this family, of giving everything I had. And this is how they honor me? The tears stopped. My breathing steadied. Slowly, a smile, not the warm kind, but the cold, knowing kind, curved across my lips. "No," I whispered. "Not tonight. They will not end my story with laughter. Not when I have the power to end it my way." I opened my purse and touched the USB drive I had tucked inside earlier. My ace, my secret. The thing no one knew about. Weeks before my birthday, a close friend from church, a retired photographer, had helped me put together a video montage. Not just of my birthday, but of my entire life. Pictures of me and my late husband building our first home. Receipts showing how I had paid for my son's college tuition. Old family portraits where I was the glue holding everyone together. And most importantly, recent photos of me standing proudly in front of the small property I had just purchased. A house in my name, a symbol that even at 70, I was not finished. They thought the slideshow was over. They thought they'd had their laugh. But my reply was sitting right in my purse, waiting to play. I straightened my shoulders, reapplied my lipstick, and fixed my hair. I didn't just want to return to that hall as Linda. I wanted to return as a storm. I whispered to my reflection one last time. "You mocked my pictures. Now I'll show you pictures that will haunt you forever. Pictures of who I really am, and of who you'll never be." I unlocked the restroom door, heels clicking against the polished floor as I walked back toward the hall. My humiliation was gone. My rage was focused. My revenge was ready. Tonight, they would not laugh at me. Tonight, they would remember me. I slipped back into the hall, blending into the shadows at the edge of the room. The laughter had dulled into background chatter, but I could still feel it clinging to the air, heavy with my humiliation. They thought I had run away, crushed. But no. I had gone to sharpen my claws. The MC tapped the microphone. "All right, folks, we're moving into the dance and open floor. Anyone who wants to share more pictures, feel free." I felt the small USB drive inside my purse, my secret weapon. It wasn't just a collection of pictures. It was a story, my story, and when I unleashed it, no one in this room would ever forget. I walked across the hall, heels striking the polished floor with measured calm. Gloria, my friend from church who had helped me prepare, was waiting near the projector. She looked up as I leaned close, her brows knitting. "You're really going to do it?" she whispered. "Oh, I'm more than going to do it," I said softly, pressing the drive into her hand. They turned me into a joke. Now I'll turn their laughter into silence. She gave my hand a quick squeeze. "Go get your crown back." I returned to my seat and let myself appear small, quiet, meek. My daughter-in-law strutted past with a glass of wine in her hand, her laughter loud enough to fill the room. "Everyone's still talking about those pictures. Honestly, Linda, you should thank us for making the night entertaining." A few chuckles followed. My son shifted uneasily in his chair, his eyes flicking to mine before darting away. That guilt simmering in him would serve me well. The music faded. The projector buzzed to life again. "Looks like we've got one more slideshow before the dance floor opens," the MC announced. I folded my hands in my lap, hiding the faintest smile. The first photo appeared, me and my late husband, young, proud, holding the keys to our first home. A gasp swept across the hall. Then came another, me cradling my newborn son in the delivery room, exhausted but glowing. The laughter in the room faded to silence. More slides followed, each one sharper than the last. Me working double shifts at the diner. Me signing tuition checks for my son's college. Me babysitting the grandchildren while their parents vacationed. Me cooking holiday feasts year after year. Every image was a truth they had ignored, sacrifices they had chosen to forget. Now those truths shone on the big screen, undeniable. And then came the final image, the one I had saved for last. There I was, standing tall in front of a brand new house, ribbon in hand, my smile fierce and proud. Beneath it, in bold letters, "Happy 70th to me, because I'm not done yet." I rose slowly, letting the silence stretch until it felt like the room itself was holding its breath. "You mocked my birthday pictures tonight," I said, my voice low but steady. "But those weren't the only pictures. These are the ones you forgot, the ones that show who I am, the sacrifices I made, the family I built, the woman you tried to laugh out of her own party." I opened the envelope and slid out a neatly folded document. "This," I held it up for all to see, "is my will. Updated, signed, sealed." Gasps swept through the hall like a wave. Someone at the back even muttered, "Oh no." My daughter-in-law sat up straighter, eyes wide. "Linda, don't be ridiculous. You're making a scene." "A scene?" I repeated, turning to face her fully. "You made a scene when you paraded my birthday pictures around this hall, mocking me in front of my neighbors and grandchildren. Tonight, I will finish that scene." I opened the document, the crisp paper snapping loudly in the microphone's echo. No one laughed now. Faces that had been bright with mockery were pale with shame. My daughter-in-law's smirk was gone. My son's head hung low. I had taken the stage back, and the night was mine. The room was so still you could hear the projector hum. For the first time that night, every eye was on me, but not with mockery, with shock, with shame. I took a step forward, my heels clicking softly against the floor. My hands no longer trembled. "You mocked my pictures tonight," I said, my voice steady, almost calm. "You laughed at me, at my dress, at my smile, at the very idea that I dared to celebrate 70 years. But you forgot one thing." I let the silence draw out. Faces leaned in unconsciously, waiting. "These pictures aren't just about me. They're about you. About everything I've done for this family that you've chosen to ignore." I gestured toward the slideshow still frozen behind me. My young self paying bills, my late husband and I holding house keys, me cradling my newborn son. "Look at them. Look closely. Every degree, every roof over your head, every meal on your table. I was there. I built this. And tonight, you turned my story into a joke." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Some nodded. Others looked away, ashamed. My daughter-in-law tried to laugh it off, raising her glass. "Linda, come on, it was just harmless fun. Everyone was laughing." I turned on her sharply. "Harmless fun? You call tearing down a 70-year-old woman on her own birthday harmless fun?" Gasps. She faltered, lowering her glass. "Do you know what I saw tonight?" I continued, my voice gaining strength. "I saw children giggling at their grandmother. I saw neighbors applauding insults. I saw my own son stay silent while his wife paraded my pictures around like circus props." My son's face crumpled. He tried to speak, but the weight of guilt seemed to press him into silence. I let my eyes sweep the room, one face at a time. "You all forgot who I am. You forgot the woman who kept this family standing. Well, let me remind you, I am not your joke. I am Linda Grace Williams, and tonight, I take my crown back." The crowd erupted, not with laughter this time, but applause. My friends clapped furiously. Some even stood cheering. The applause rolled through the hall like thunder, drowning out the color draining from my daughter-in-law's face. She forced a smile, but it faltered. Her hand shook as she set her glass down. "As of last week, everything I own, the house, the savings, the inheritance your children believed would be theirs, no longer belongs to you. It belongs to the people who have treated me with dignity. To those who stood and clapped for me tonight. To those who reminded me I am not invisible." The hall exploded in gasps. My daughter-in-law's face drained of color. You can't mean that. We're family." I leaned in close, my voice low but sharp enough for the microphone to carry. "Family is not defined by blood. Family is defined by loyalty. And tonight, you showed me you have neither." My son buried his face in his hands, shoulders shaking. He whispered, "Mom, please." But his voice was drowned by the murmurs spreading through the guests. One woman whispered to another. She cut them off completely. Another hissed, "Serves them right after how they treated her." I straightened, my chest rising with the power of the moment. "So yes, mock my pictures, mock my dress, mock my laughter, but know this, the only legacy you'll have from me now is the memory of this night, and the shame that comes with it." I placed the will back in its envelope and slid it away with deliberate calm. The silence was deafening. Then slowly, the applause returned. Not mocking this time, but strong, steady, and fierce. Friends stood again, clapping. Strangers nodded with admiration. I looked out at the faces, and for the first time that night, I saw respect. But when my eyes landed on my daughter-in-law, I saw something else. Her face pale, lips trembling, eyes glistening with unshed tears. She was broken. My son sat beside her, unable to lift his gaze. And in that moment, I knew. I had stolen not just the night. I had stolen their pride. My son finally looked at me, his lips trembling. "Mom, I didn't stop it. I should have. I'm sorry." The words hung heavy, late but honest. I raised my chin. Sorry doesn't erase the silence that cut deeper than laughter. But maybe it's a start. The music of the applause still echoed when I delivered the final blow. And if anyone still doubts me, remember this. 70 isn't the end of my story. Tonight it's just the beginning. And this beginning, you'll never forget it. The room roared again. My daughter-in-law sank into her chair, eyes downcast. For the first time all night, she was silent. And for the first time all night, I stood victorious. The applause faded, but the weight of the room remained thick. My daughter-in-law's painted smile had completely vanished, and my son sat slumped, his face pale, ashamed. But I wasn't finished. Not yet. I reached into my purse and pulled out a slim brown envelope. The sight of it immediately drew whispers. I laid it on the table before me, my hand resting on it like a queen guarding her scepter. "You see?" I began, my tone quieter now, but cutting through the hall like glass. "While you all laughed at me tonight, I had already prepared my reply. You thought the only pictures worth showing were the ones that made me small. But I've been preparing another kind of picture, one painted with truth and consequence.